You are listening to the Independent Dealer Podcast with hosts Luke Godwin and Jeff Watson.
Hello and welcome to the Independent Dealer Podcast, brought to you by Buckeye Dealership Consulting. Another great installment in our How I Built This series. We love March. We love hearing the stories of other dealers. Luke, today we have a Texas dealer.
We do, and we know we love Texas. We do a little podcast down there for Texas every once in a while. And today it's Greg Reine, and I said that right, I hope, of Auto Liquidators. And it's a big buy here, pay here dealer in Texas again. And it's so awesome to hear these stories of how they grow and how they do it in a big market, and then they move outside the big market. So, Greg, thanks for joining us. Introduce yourself.
Hey, no problem. Hey, thanks for having me. It's always interesting to talk to people and tell them where I've been and where I'm going, so that way maybe I can help somebody down the road. So we're a 32-year buy here, pay here dealer. So we started 32 years ago. We've got about 2,400 receivables, 75 employees. We sit about 32 million principal balance summary. We sell about 130 cars a month. And we keep 4 million in inventory, and our leverage is very low. We're very low leveraged.
That's super important right now with interest rates like they are, isn't it, Greg?
Yeah, it's great. And and I had a lot of friends that were trying to deleverage here a couple of years ago, so hopefully they got that done, and they're sitting in a better situation today.
Yeah. So you're 32 years. We've been in business for 38 years, so that's a long time for any business. And you're much bigger than we are, and you're in the Dallas market. Also, you have 3 stores, right?
Yes, sir. We had grown. I had a little store that I rented when I first started out on my own, and then I purchased a store, and then I grew to 6 stores. And then when COVID came in, we were kind of a little bit ahead of a curve. About a year before COVID, we started doing online approvals. So we started doing online sales. So that when COVID hit, we didn't need all these stores. The foot traffic slowed down. So we've shut down all of our stores locally in Dallas-Fort Worth market because we have 2 markets next to each other. And we've moved to 3 stores and pushed 2 stores out. So we have one in Tyler and one in Waco. So about an hour and 15 minutes away from Dallas.
So Tyler and Waco are both about an hour 15 from Dallas?
Yes, Tyler's a little further, but they're similar.
And both in the same direction or opposite directions from Dallas?
Opposite directions. One's towards East Texas and one's towards Austin south. So one's east and one's south.
That's super interesting that you were ahead of the curve like that, because I know that so many of us during COVID had to catch up to the online approval and to doing things without foot traffic. So that's something we can sure dive into here, Jeff, I'm assuming.
Yeah, what I want to know, Greg, is so Luke's operation has been at it about 34 years, right? And 38 years. And you've been kind of, Luke, in and out of buy here, pay here retail, right? I mean, you haven't been 100% buy here, pay here from day one.
No.
I've been at it, 15, 20 years now, and I've been buy here, pay here from day one. And I'm a fraction. I've grown to a fraction of what Greg has grown to. Greg, help me understand, how did you start 32 years ago? Did you start with the idea of being a buy here, pay here? Did you start as just a cash lot? And of course, back then, would you buy a car for $50 and sell it for $5,000 or something? I don't know, whatever.
No, I've got,
back in the day.
I've got a crazy story if we have time to tell it. But, back in the day, my father ran new car dealerships. And I worked for him in high school selling new cars, and always figured I would be a new car manager. So I learned that part of the industry. Then when I graduated high school, he went out and tried to start his own car lot and was undercapitalized and made a bunch of mistakes and was not able to make it. But by his failures were my successes. I ran his store for him. I learned what to do wrong. I learned what to do right. So I had a little bit of an edge there than most dealers when they walk in and they start on their own. So then I started out, I opened my first car lot and I did everything. And then back that story up a little bit there. So when I worked for him, I came down in my early 20s with cancer, Hodgkin's disease. and I had to go through the treatments and all that. Kind of hurt my credit, so I didn't have a lot of credit. Couldn't get funding to get loans to sell cars. So when I went out on my own, I sold my boat, my motorcycle, and my car, and took all my money and invested it into buy here, pay here. Now that's not a lot of money. So obviously, what I did then was I tried to wholesale and retail, and all that money I put back into buy here, pay here, and I was able to grow that into the 6 stores over the years. So, I grew very slow. I did leverage when I had to go to my Dallas location, because we went from selling 40 cars a month to selling, 100 cars a month overnight. So I did leverage, and that was the first time I'd borrowed money. I went from an $8 million non-leveraged portfolio to a $24 million leveraged portfolio. But still, our leverage was only about 32% at that point. The real estate I paid off in 4 years. I did borrow for the real estate. And then after that, we had started a CPI product as well, which I think every dealer should not be without it today. And through the CPI product and through the ability to grow the portfolio on its own capital, we were able to pay down our debt. We pretty much paid our debt off. We had our debt paid off other than just a relationship debt here the other day. And we were able to pay for all of our real estate. We hold about $15 million in real estate as well.
Oh my goodness. That's awesome. So Greg, where was your first store? Because you said you moved into the Dallas market.
My first store was in Duncanville, which is a suburb of Dallas. So it was right down the street. Okay. So, and that was my first store. And obviously it was just a shack. And I worked 7 days a week. I detailed the cars. I mechanicked the cars, sold the cars. I collected the receivables. I went to the auction. I wholesale cars. I went to the new car stores, bought wholesale inventory. Yeah. So it was a full bore 7 days a week, really 8 days a week, really.
What I'm curious about, Greg, is as you're growing that, and I know everything's bigger in Texas, right? So I'm sure whatever your trajectory, do you have any insight or ideas? Because I know you've only been in what you've been in, and I've only been in what I've been in. How did you hit that trajectory? I mean, how do you go from starting with just the cash that's in your pocket from selling your cars and your boat and your motorcycle to having what'd you say, 4 million, 5 million in receivables before you had to leverage?
8 million before we leveraged.
8 million. That's insane. Yeah. I don't fathom that kind of growth. Right? Like, how did you grow at that kind of a trajectory? Was there other things? Were you flipping cars faster? Was it just?
No, very slow, very slow. One thing we always tried to do and one thing I think dealers make a mistake with that we've never done is chase our bad debt. We've sold what we have the money coming in to sell. That's what we've sold. When we opened 6 stores, we went very slow. We didn't open big, massive stores. We opened stores for real estate investment for number one. Number two, stores that would sell 20, 25 cars a month. So I'm just barely adding to that portfolio slowly. And then when I got my Dallas location, which was the big location, it started selling 50 cars a month and went to 70, 80 cars a month. Well, here we go. Now I've got to get debt. I've got to borrow some money. That was frustrating, because when you sit and you're watching your numbers on a daily basis and you're sitting there going, when do I have to pull that trigger to borrow debt? This is how much we have coming in. This is how much we've got going out. Well, at some point my cash is going to run out. And then you make phone calls and you say, well, who will bank me? And then that's not, that's a whole nother conversation in itself. But
what's super interesting is Jeff, you were talking about how long does it take you to grow to 8 million? Well, I mean, that's kind of the same boat we're in. We grew to $8 million without debt from 2001 to 2023. I mean, that's, it's 22 years of doing exactly what Greg is talking about, only selling the amount of cars that your portfolio cash flows you to be able to do, right, Greg? I mean, that's how you do it that way.
Yes.
And I assume at that point you were doing a lot of CPI. Were you using some of the CPI money to do that as well, I guess?
We did not do CPI until about 10 years ago. Probably about 10, let me back that up. Probably 14 years ago we did CPI. And that was, that was kind of a mistake I made because I left that contract sitting on my desk for about a year before I signed it because I just was not, I'm a very slow guy sometimes. That if you have a mistake, that's probably I could have grown faster, but that's part of my success too by growing sort of slow.
Yeah, I'm with you with the CPI. I left that on the table probably for 5 years too long. You talk about being slow, but I just want to read this. This is from Jeff Martin, the CEO of NIADA. And speaking about Greg, he is known as one of the best operators in Texas. I mean, that's pretty freaking high honors, right, Greg?
It is, and it's exciting. We don't have egos around here, and we could always do things better. But it is exciting because to hear that come from him, and I know there's some dealers that I look up to in Texas, and it's that I've always looked up to in Texas that I've always thought was great, that were great dealers and helped me. I learned from those dealers. They never lent me any money but they would answer my phone calls and take my questions, my stupid questions. And they weren't afraid to answer, truthfully and give me opinions. And those things help. Those things help as a dealer.
Hey, everybody, real quick to jump in and let you know it is tax time. Time to get your TaxMax sign up going, get your staff educated. There's still a couple weeks left. You can run the fourth quarter program, or you can be ready in January when people start bringing those W-2s in to file their taxes for them. Get that money straight into your pocket.
Yeah, we were on a training call today with TaxMax. We are getting on it, so it's time to do it. I had a dealer call me, I think yesterday or day before. Hey, what's this about? Does it help? Yes, it helps 100%. If we're talking about it, we believe in it.
Yeah, it's an awesome program. They have a situation this year where the customer actually files themselves. So like I reached out to my website provider. I said, hey, will you add this banner, this button to my website? So now right on my website, whoever's shopping gets the banner that says, click here to start your tax return. So yeah. I could wake up in the morning and have someone had already filed with a pending return coming in for their down payment. So it's a really cool deal. Make sure you use VIP to get 40% off the VIP package with TaxMax. Can I ask you, Greg, to get into some of the nitty gritties of, I'm still just stuck on that trajectory thing. I'm like, man, how do you scale that fast? So talk to me about your business model. Like when you buy a car, you're 100% buy here, pay here. You guys don't sell anything cash retail.
No.
And all your prices are on your website, so you're not a payment
very
or a down payment type
very
joint.
Transparent.
What is the structure? Are you looking to get a $10,000 car and sell it for 15? Are you looking to buy low mileage? Are you all SUV truck down there in Texas? And how does your basic deal structure work out?
So, I may look at that a little bit different than some guys that have covenants and bank, that have to do certain things, certain year models. So some of my approaches may be different than other people can do. But my approach is always, and obviously 32 years ago, that approach has changed then to today. I can remember, back when I bought a car for $4,500 and sold it for $500 down, and I went home and I was kind of a little bit upset. My wife said, "What's wrong with you?" I said, "I just put $4,000 on the street, and that person's probably never going to pay me."
Mm-hmm.
So the model today is a lot different. Today, I try to spread that inventory out. I try to have some cheaper inventory, and I try to have some more expensive inventory. Obviously, we have to have some more expensive inventory for our repeat buyers and our, what we would consider to be a gold buyer that can come in. And then we have some cheaper inventory. ACVs probably around 5,500. Top end ACVs are probably around 15,000.
And say a $5,500 car ACV would become what kind of a retail unit?
10.9 to probably 11.9. We try to mark them up $5-6 grand.
Okay,
that's a traditional buy here, pay here model.
Yeah.
So even that
about double.
Even that 10,000 ACV would go up to 15, or would that one go up to closer to 20?
No, that $10,000 ACV would go up to around. I try to put it up about 6,000.
Okay.
6,000 markup on it.
Yeah.
So, and
Yeah,
then some of the
that's
stuff that's 15,000, I can push it up to 22.9, 24.9.
wow. And what kind of a down payment do you get, or what's your standard? What do
Our
you have a
average down
goal or?
payment's $1,000.
Whew,
So
wow.
but you got to remember we're in a very competitive market here.
Yeah,
Yeah.
yeah, you're putting a lot of money on the street.
Yeah,
Um,
we're in a very competitive market.
let's talk about that competitive market and how you've dealt with this. Um, Charge offs seem to be really big in the Dallas market.
Uh-huh.
Um, what is your charge off rate like? And do you have a secret sauce that you use? Because I know I had some friends who are dealers in the Dallas market, and they would charge off so quickly, so many cars that they were just recycling a lot of them. I don't really think that fits what you do. Is that the case? Is your charge off lower than most in Dallas market?
I think my charge off's probably consistent to what I would call the good operators in Dallas Fort Worth market. All of our charge offs probably about the same. I can't speak for other guys, but obviously, before COVID, we were running about 2% a month. After COVID, we're during COVID, everybody's, we're running 1%. We're probably running some months 3% right now, just with the market, the way that everything's, happening in our industry. Um, so a bad charge off month for us is probably about 3.5%. An average charge off month is probably about 2.5 to 2.8, somewhere around there.
Okay. I wonder, Jeff, do you know this? Is the Dow? I mean, is the Texas charge off above or below the benchmark for 20 groups?
Hmm.
I don't know. I'd
Interesting to
like,
know.
yeah, I would
I
like to know
would think it
that.
would probably be regional. It's like you said, when you're in a highly competitive market, it's just so much more enticing for that customer to just drop your car and go somewhere else, right?
Yeah.
So they're probably more likely to walk away from something. And then you're probably also, the miles that folks put on cars out there, they just drive, 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 from what I understand. So you're probably getting a car that's in a little bit of a rougher shape than what it was when you sold it. What's your demographic of customer? Are you Hispanic, mostly English speaking, combination of both?
We're a combination of all three, probably.
Who's
So
the third language?
well, just Spanish and English, yes.
Oh, okay.
So
Some
I'm
interesting.
sorry there.
Awesome. That sounds like it seems like it's like opening an ice cream stand in the Sahara. Like if opening a buy here, pay here in Texas. Like you are instantly popular. You have lines out the door. And so we always, outside of Texas, we always kind of joke around about, well, if I was doing this in Texas, I'd be crazy successful. But there's a lot of great operators. How did you learn to become a good operator? Like, is this all self-taught? Did you have mentors? Did you participate in masterminds and things like that? Like, because it seems like you've got it dialed in here. And of course, 32 years in the business, you probably had a lot of learning experience, but did you have outside education or input?
Uh, you know, for me, it's been rare because I've I was never an association guy for years and years and years, and now I'm a heavy association guy. I'm a VP with TIDA, and by being in the associations, that allows me access to speak freely with other dealers without walls up. So I would say three of my biggest competitors in my market are very good friends of mine, and we compete every single day. But we communicate as well, and we're open with each other and honest with each other. And we talk about our numbers, and we talk about what we're doing. We talk about where we're having struggles. So, never in a 20 group. I would say my friends have been in my 20, have been my 20 group. They have been in 20 groups. I'm not saying that there's anything wrong with a 20 group. I would suggest a dealer get in a 20 group. I just have not needed one. So, another thing I do is I use an industry accounting firm. So that industry accounting firm usually benchmarks me every year. I have that performed so I can compare to their people that they do accounting for and to the benchmark, and they provide those numbers for the national benchmarks. Uh, and I'll tell you that I always ask them, in your top 10 dealers that you account for benchmarks, who am I in the top 5? And I'm usually in the top 5 every year, profit on dollar, which makes me feel really good. So I gauge where I'm at in the industry, and then I communicate with a lot of my friends, and what they do may not work for me. And different dealerships have different personalities. I can have a dealership 15 minutes apart, and that store 15 minutes from another store has a completely different personality. The way one may sell cars on Saturday, the other one doesn't sell cars on Saturday. It sells cars at night. So I think you have to feel those things and learn those little nuances about your business, and turn those into gold. So I've learned from other people and taken the best nuggets from everybody else and put it together to make my business.
And Greg, do you see yourself now? Because I know I've gotten 2 phone calls from dealers today, and I probably field 10 or 15 calls a week from other dealers. Do you get that same thing, or are you glad to give back now?
I am glad to give back because I feel that I'm on the other side of it. And me and a dealer had this conversation the other day. We only want to sell so many cars a month. We only have capital to sell so many cars a month. So there's no reason for us to be in a competitive head-to-head with each other. There's enough business in Dallas-Fort Worth market and Tyler market and Waco market in Texas that we can help each other versus hurt each other. And I am happy to give back. And I do get phone calls. And to be honest with you, I probably had more phone calls in the last 30 days with a lot of the things we have going on in the industry than I've fielded in a long time. I have had a lot of dealers concerned calling me that are capital, that have a lot of capital borrowed. I have dealers call me and ask me all kinds of questions like you probably do as well. Everything from real estate to investment to portfolio to shop to, you name it, I get it.
Yeah. It's funny how when you run into other dealers at the auction, it's almost like you're in this battleground. It's like it's hard to just be real with a dealer when you're in the lanes with them. But when you're at an association meeting, or of course in a 20 group, now all of a sudden you're on the same team and you're fighting the same battle together, and you're willing to share that info. So that's definitely a plug for being a part of your state association. Don't think that it's a bunch of dealers in a room holding their best secrets to themselves and trying to, have a fight. It's just a totally different feel, right?
Yeah. And when a young dealer comes to me today for advice, maybe a CPA firm sent them to me or another dealer sent them to me, and they ask advice, the first thing I ask them, are you a member of your local and state association? And typically if they're not, I tell them, well, become a member of your local and state association and roll up into the NIDA, and then I'll help you. I answer little questions for you, but if you want to take a lot of my time up and you want to be successful, then let's start you off on the right path to be successful and get you with other people other than me, because my business model where I'm at today may not work. You can get nuggets from me, but that business model at 32 years, is not going to work for somebody just starting.
Hey, everybody, let's talk about Buckeye a couple more times this year. As you heard Greg talk about this, CPI is such an important product. Buckeye can help you get all that set up. It's taken me, I should be kicked in the face, Jeff, that I wasted so many years not doing CPI. It is a game changer. Reinsurance is a game changer. Call Buckeye. They will get you set up.
Yeah, it's kicked myself in the face too. Look, I'm still wasting months not tracking it the way I should too. And that's what dawned on me during this interview with Greg was, he mentioned it a couple times how much it was a game changer, and I do it and I'm trying to push it, but I'm not really tracking it. We should be tracking this CPI number the same way we track, payments, same way we track sales, the same way we track dollars collected. I got to put that in my spreadsheet as a number that I want to look at weekly.
I look at it daily. That's how important it is to me. So get out there and do it. Greg, let's dive back into your dealership a little bit. You said you had 75 employees, right?
Uh-huh.
Can you break that down? How many do you have in the shop? How many do you have in collections? How many do you have? Now
you're gonna put me on the spot. Huh?
Ballpark.
Oh, I don't want to tell you something that's wrong. I can get you the right answer real quick, but I'm going to say that as far as production techs, we have 9 production techs to build inventory.
And that's producing 100 and
30 units a month.
130, 150 a
Well,
month.
they at full capacity, shop can run about 150 to 160 units a month.
Okay.
So we have nine production techs, 2 customer service techs, a CPI tech that does CPI repairs. We don't have a body shop here, so we don't do any paint work here, but he will do, just general, replace a fender, doors, front end. I'm going to say that we outsource our detail department. There's 3 in there. We don't have that under us. We have 2 in QC. We have 1 tech that just does troubleshooting. That works he's a retired tech that we got that does very well troubleshooting. So he just does troubleshooting. We have our own wrecker, so we have a wrecker driver. We're just putting our own transportation company in, so we've ordered a trailer and a truck, and so we've got a guy that we've sent CDL school for that, so we can start to transport our own cars. Tyler Store probably has what we call a selling manager, and 3 salesmen. Waco has the same thing, 3 sales and a selling manager. Our Dallas store has 2 people on the desk. It sells, around 80 a month. So it has 2 people on the desk that help manage the floor, and probably 5 to 6 on the floor there. We have a collection manager that she has probably, I'm going to say, 8 collectors underneath her. We also have accounting. In accounting, we have a title girl, and then we have 2 in accounting that just does standard accounting. We have 1 that does shop accounting, and then we have 2 parts people. We just instituted a parts department here probably about a year and a half ago with struggling like everybody does to get their parts. We were an AutoZone preferred dealer, so AutoZone supplied us with an employee, and we cut that out, and we went to 2 of our in-house ourselves because of the struggles with getting parts. And then I've got a CEO that runs everything for me, that sits on top of everything.
That's interesting to me, Greg. What's your day-to-day? What's your involvement of the dealership? When you've grown this thing, you've been at it for so long, is this still something you have a passion for? Are you in it daily, or what have you found that interests you now?
So let me back up just a second too, before we get to that, because I left some stuff out. So we have an online sales department as well, underwriting department. So we have people in those departments as well.
How about, and your buyer, is that in there somewhere around there, or are you buying?
So I buy a lot of stuff online. I have a buyer that does not work directly for us that buys for me. And then I have a brother that buys for me. So it's 3 of us that do all the buying. So I was buying cars online last night at 8:00 at home,
Yeah.
So that seems to be one of the last thing that dealer owners let go of, is
never give it up. Never give it up.
It's hard to give any of it up when you built it from when you did everything, and then now you're to where, I used to clean the toilet, so
Would you say that's the majority of your time is acquisition?
No, it's not. It used to be probably 5 years before COVID. It was probably a lot of my time. I bought 80% of it before COVID, but after COVID, I quit going back to auction. And so, to answer your question, do you want me to
please
go back there?
Yeah.
So, I still have passion. I always have passion. Some people ask me if I'm going to retire or sell or get out, or do I have an exit strategy? And I say no. I just don't have any interest in retiring. I love what I do. I've got it in a position now where I've got some really smart people and some really good people that I've surrounded myself with. And they've been with me for a long time. And, I've done some things to secure those people. So, in that sense, I don't have to be here every day. I do work. If you ask my people, I am very involved with my business on a day-to-day basis. I'm not an owner that comes in and works an hour a day or goes to, a different state on vacation for 30, 60, 90 days. I'm in my dealership.
Greg, do you mind? And you said something there that's intriguing to me. You said you did something to tie those people up that are super, super important to you. Can you enlighten us on what that was?
Oh, well,
I mean, if
Blackmail.
you
Sounds like blackmail.
if you
yeah,
don't want
I
to, you
can't
don't
give
have
up.
to.
I can't give up all my secrets, but no, I put, some of them, uh, I've just made situations to where it's benefit for them to stay with me.
Okay. I've often wondered that, it's one of those things to get someone to really have amazing buy-in to run it the way you would. Um, I don't ever want to give up any of my business, but if you have to pay someone, a really good amount of money to make that happen, I get that. But then you start wondering, is money enough? I don't know. But it's neat that you've been able to keep those people.
Yeah, and I mean, your people, I'm not, by any means am I an attorney, but I have to oversee legal aspects every day. I'm not an accountant, but I have to oversee accounting aspects every day. So, I've always tried to surround myself, hire attorneys where they need to be hired. Let them handle certain situations. Let the accountants handle those situations. Let me just run my business, on a day-to-day basis.
Yeah, yeah, for sure.
So,
Yeah, it's hard when we get as doers, like you said, guys that used to clean the toilets, guys that used to pick up the trash and do everything. It's really hard to not get bogged down in some of those like repetitious tasks or things that maybe are outside your qualifications that you should be outsourcing just because you think you can do it, right?
yeah. Yeah,
It
you
could
have to
take you,
recognize that.
yeah,
Greg,
this is beyond my pay grade or not a good use of my time for good or for bad, right?
Yeah.
do you remember the first person you hired, and what job did you hire them for?
The first person that I hired was a retired guy to help me move my cars on a day-to-day basis uh, and watch the lot when I would go to the auction. The second person I ever hired was to do collections. That was the second person I ever hired.
How long did it take you to hire a salesperson?
Oh, gosh. When I opened, not when I was in a shack. Now, my first car lot was actually a portable building. It was just a shack. And we would sell 25 cars a month out of there, and I did all of it. So when I opened the second location, I had to hire salespeople. That's whenever, the game changed.
And that's hiring salespeople in buy here, pay here is a little scary, right? Because salespeople like to sell. And
Yes.
you've got to make sure that you're hiring a person that understands your business philosophy and that the collection portion of the sale is way more important than the sales portion of the sale, right?
Yes. Yeah, and we've always taken the attitude. A couple of attitudes that we've taken in our 32 years is that first of all, we want to buy a product that we feel is good for the consumer. We don't want the default to be because of us. Are we going to buy cars that are going to break? Yes, they're mechanical. But yet we don't want that receivable to go bad because of a bad car. If we sell them a bad car, we want to put them in another car. The other thing that we've taken is that if we can't collect it, we can't sell it. So we sell what we can collect. That goes back to your cash flow. So if we collect enough money, then we can sell it. If we don't collect enough money, then we have to tighten our portfolio up. So we can maneuver those strings of cash flow through whether we loosen the buying product up or tighten the buying product up on the paper side. So that goes back to a little bit of what you asked me earlier about how do you cash flow that. So it's just, pushing those levers forward or backwards for 32 years. And when you pull backwards, you can take that cash, put it in your pocket, and then reinvest it back into the market, back into your car market.
That's something that I made a mistake when I mean, I think it's a mistake. I mean, you don't know for a long time, it seems like, but when prices spiked during COVID, I pulled back. And because I thought it was going to be transitory, of course. And I pulled back, but I was able to build a stockpile of cash, because we tightened up the inventory buying, and we tightened up who we were financing. And then all of a sudden, when I was ready to grow again, we were able to use that cash to go back in. It's amazing how something as simple as tightening up who you finance can produce a lot of cash. That's a really good trigger point.
Hey, y'all, one more time. Primalend, great sponsor of the podcast, a great place to go to get money. Like Greg, he'd grown organically, which blows my mind that you can get to that scale growing organically, because I've been trying it for 15 years and I'm nowhere near that type of trajectory that he has. So if you need to borrow money, either for your real estate or for your buy here, pay here, or for any reason, talk to the guys over at Primalend.
Yeah, as soon as you get to that point, Jeff, it never fails. No matter how long you've been in the buy here, pay here business, you may need some capital. So don't wait. Get it set up, get your finances in order, and call Primalend.
Having cars that run the loan or run the note, right? You want to buy something that the car is going to be successful. You don't want it to break down or the loan to fail because of the car. You guys are doing all the buying. Looking at your website, it seems like you guys are big fans of Chevy products, Dodge, and Nissan. Seems to be kind of the lion's share of the inventory, and only one truck on your car lot. Is that typical for your area?
So no, we've pulled that back. It has become more typical of our area. You have a lot of dealers that do a lot of trucks. We used to do probably, 15% of our business used to be trucks and large SUVs. It's about 20% of our business with SUVs, but the larger vehicles have just become so expensive now. To buy a Suburban that we feel is going to run the loan is so expensive. I just don't want to push our ACV up that way. So the truck situation is a little bit different in Texas. They drive them a bunch of miles and they work out of them. So you have a tendency to get stuff torn up. So you've got to be a little careful in that market. We will still do trucks. We just don't have as much of them because of the price range. For me to get a truck, you're starting to push 15 grand and up envelope.
Yeah.
And then that becomes a cash flow issue, right? Because that 15 grand is only going to, that's, two $7,500 cars. So
yeah, exactly. I think about that all the time when I look at these cars. I'm like, do I want that one or do I want two of this other one?
I'm not smart enough to figure that out. I just keep buying $15,000 cars.
Yeah. I'm surprised by how many Altimas, Nissan products you have. I feel like I'm scared to death of Nissans as a buy here, pay here car, but it looks like it doesn't seem to faze you.
A lot of the Nissan products don't faze me. The transmission, we all know, is an issue. If we buy those products that need a transmission, sometimes we can put a Nissan transmission in from Nissan and get a 3-year, 36,000-mile warranty on that transmission from Nissan. So if I buy that vehicle right, that doesn't scare me. We have the manpower in-house to change those transmissions. So, a lot of guys steer away from some things that I don't because of my shop and the capabilities of my shop. It goes back to learning your business and your business model. What are we good at and what are we bad at? What are we bad at? We stay away from it. What are we good at? We relish in that, attack it.
And what's also good is when you have a really good CPI program, and you're selling a lot of the same product, you can start stockpiling those parts. It's ingenious when you do that because, as we know, people wreck cars, right?
Yeah, that's how Southwest Airlines made it, right? They flew the same plane.
That's right.
So we go out and pick those transmissions and those motors and those doors and those fenders and we just keep right on moving.
Greg, I thank you for all the time you've spent with us today. What's the best thing you've ever done in a decision you've made in the car business?
Oh, guys. I mean, there's so many of them. You'd have to do a whole nother segment on it.
That's good.
Yeah.
We got time.
We've had a lot of successes. Obviously to where we are today, we've had a lot of successes. I think, we would have to sum them up into a lot of different things. Honestly, some of the successes I've had is I've surrounded myself with people smarter than me, better in situations than I'm in certain situations. I recognize my weaknesses and my strengths. And where my weaknesses are, I try to make that up with people around me that can pick those up. I don't have a big ego, so I'm able to tell my people my weaknesses and where I need help, and I'm able to tell them where their strengths and weaknesses are, so we can all pull the chain together. We run it like a football team and a football coach, and we try to win the game, and we all try to pull together. So, CPI would be a product that I think that every dealer should have. I think that every dealer should be a member of an association and not be scared to talk to other dealers and take advice from other dealers. I've had dealers fly in from other states, and spend a week with me. I'm not scared to, I've seen dealers, their mistakes, and I've seen their successes, and we all could do better in certain areas. There's no place I could improve in areas too. So I just think being able to communicate with other dealers and have other dealers as friends has been a big help to us in our journey.
So true here. I just being involved in the podcast and becoming friends with Jeff and all the acquaintances I've met in these little 5 years that we've done this, Jeff. I know I've become a better dealer in these 5 years.
Absolutely. Absolutely. Greg, thank you so much for your time. Very, very generous for you to join us. Just so everyone knows that's listening, we sent a message to Greg and said, hey, will you come on here and tell us your story? Greg has no idea who we are. He doesn't know anything. And he immediately responded and said, sure, if I can help dealers, I will come on and talk. So thank you so much for your time, Greg. Really appreciate it.
Yeah. Hey, thank you guys so much.
Dealers helping dealers. Please leave us a review and subscribe. The Independent Dealer Podcast.